So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Suella Braverman saying Remainer civil servants are, quote, thwarting reforms. I mean, woof. She talks a lot about the culture war stuff around trans issues, which is something I'm not going to go into today. We're just going to talk about her kind of quotes around the civil servants. And this shows you that these people are genuinely insane, because civil servants are there to follow government policy. They're there to tell you the pros and cons of your ideas and get it written into legislation. That's their main role. And to attack civil servants, it's just wild. She says some civil servants are resisting post-Brexit reforms because they cannot imagine life outside of the EU, the Attorney General claimed. And it's just stupid, because if ministers want, they can force things through. We saw Priti Patel do that with, I think it was the Turn Back scheme, where she basically tried to force refugees crossing the English Channel back towards France. I think she did that with the Rwanda scheme as well. It's just so stupid that these kind of Tory ministers go ahead and blame civil servants for their own failures. I just don't get it. If you want to show the benefits of Brexit, why haven't you done anything yet? Or at least show what policy direction you're moving in, apart from we're going to deregulate from the EU. That doesn't tell me anything. Not really. Suella Braverman says there's a great opportunity to peel back onerous rules and bureaucracy to actually help the consumer as a result of the UK's departure from the EU. So can you tell us what these schemes are? What specifically you're planning on doing? What are the numbers? Because apart from Solvency II deregulation, I've seen nothing. She says some of her biggest battles in the government are with officials rather than political battles in the House of Commons, probably because you give, in my opinion, crappy legal advice, and it's based in fantasy. You talked about the justification for breaching the Northern Ireland Protocol. I wouldn't be surprised if any civil servant said, to you, that's garbage justification. You're like, how dare you, stupid Ramona. She also rejects demands by some pro-Brussels rebels for a new meaningful vote provision on the Northern Ireland Protocol bill. I mean, why would you reject it? Surely you should be okay with votes. You've got a stonking majority. Why would you not want people to vote on legislation? It's just stupid. Johnson identified post-Brexit deregulation as a key mission for the government in the 2019 manifesto, promising a red tape challenge that would ensure that regulation is sensible and proportionate, and to use our new freedom after Brexit to ensure that British rules work for British companies, she says. Okay, so what are you planning on deregulating then? What changes are you planning on making? She said examples of EU law retained in Westminster Statute Book include key elements of the UK's VAT regime. Yes, you're going to make things like duty on alcohol way worse and way more burdensome. Way more admin needed, because they're going to tax it by volume. I've covered that, a couple of times this year. You have no idea what you're doing, do you? Brexiteers feel that under the status quo, UK rules would change according to relevant rulings by the European Court of Justice. I mean, what does that even mean? UK rules would change according to the relevant rulings by the ECJ. Okay, but that's not really relevant to much, is it? The ECJ doesn't dictate, regulations. It's there to enforce it. She says, with ministers having to adopt domestic versions of EU legal concepts. The only reason we did that is because the rush way we, exited from the EU. The EU wanted a level playing field when it came to getting the TCA. There was that, basically, a joke by, what's his face, Barnier, saying, looking for a level playing field and him at a football pitch. It's just ridiculous for them to complain about EU regulations. If you wanted to deregulate, you should have started that process a long time ago. Braverman says the Brexit Opportunities Bill will be absolutely critical for deregulation. So that's the bill that has all the sunset clauses around EU regulations, or the EU regulations we adopted, that in 5 years' time, these regulations will be gotten rid of. We had, I think it was, not Grant Shapps. It might have been Grant Shapps. I think he was Transport Minister. He said that, this scheme that Rees-Mogg is going on is ridiculous, because I think it was Transport that took on the most EU regulation at the time. And, given the fact that they're cutting civil servants, the current civil servants, right now are struggling with the amount of, red tape they have to get through. So what happens when you cut the civil servants by a significant amount? You're not going to have any to actually deal with new and current problems. You're going to be dealing with stupid stuff. She says, I've learned not only during my time as Attorney General, but also during my time as a Brexit minister, some of the biggest battles you face as a minister are, in the nicest possible way, with Whitehall and internally, with civil servants opposed to your political battles in the chamber. And again, there's not much civil servants can do. All they can do is tell you the consequences of your actions and why things are a bad idea. What else? They can't really do much, because at the end, they could get fired for that sort of stuff if they start rebelling against government ministers. We've seen these governments do really abhorrent things with austerity, with deregulation, deporting refugees to Rwanda, etc. you got all of those things through. What were the civil servants doing then? Were they just having a jolly? And then when it comes to some of the other Brexit stuff, they're like, no, you can't do that. She's an absolute joker, honestly. I go back to the clip of her saying we'd get a windfall after Brexit. I mean, she's a silly person, and anyone who votes for her to be Tory leader is an idiot. Looking at you, Brexit hardman Steve Baker. Because there are thousands of civil servants, in large part they are brilliant. She said, don't take this as an opportunity to bash the civil service, but what I have seen time and time again is that there is a Remain bias. You got any examples of that? You want to cite anything? I'm not asking you for names, but just say one example of when the civil service went against your Brexit ideas. What actually happened? You name any? No? She says, I'll say it, I have seen resistance to some of the measures that ministers have wanted to bring forward. Is it resistance, or have they told you that there are consequences and the policies you're putting through are a bad idea and some could potentially break the law? Have they told you that and you said, oh, you stupid Remainers, or you're Romaniacs, how could you? Where's your Brexit spirit? It's just ridiculous. The rest of this stuff is around trans issues. So if you want to read this article, I'll link it below, as I do with, or as I try to do with all articles. I mean, aside from that nice shade of blue, she's an absolute joke. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one, if you can actually stomach this stuff.